Welcome. I'm Matt. I'll be your host for ferMentors. I'm also the host of Jaggers Brewing Co. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, comment, share all those platforms. And today's guest and what we're talking about is why homebrewing clubs are important. And my guest is John Black. John Black is the president of the Bay Area Mashronauts. He's a recent 90 plus point scorer on the BJCP certified judge certificate program. He also is the host of the podcast Best of Show. So be sure to check out that podcast if you're even mildly interested in competitive homebrewing. While you're also mildly interested in homebrewing competitively, be sure to check out the Master Homebrewer program. All links and additional information will be in the description. So, welcome, John. Thanks for coming on the show and talking about why homebrew clubs are important.
No, I appreciate you having me. I think it's a great subject and probably of interest to a lot of people out there that aren't members of clubs.
Yeah, that's one of the goals that this episode is aimed to be around. I'm a big proponent of if you're new to homebrewing, find a club that's local to you, and we'll break into all that in just a second. But one of the first questions, and you and I, we've known each other for a few years now. We're pretty comfortable around each other. I feel like we know each other fairly well. You know me probably better than I know you.
All right.
So you've been able to see me like come up through the homebrew club for the last couple of years, right? So what I kind of wanted to know, and it was one of the first ideas when I had this approached you about this episode, was what was your first homebrew club? Was it BAM? And while you answer that, I'm going to pour you a sample of a brew that I made, my California Common. Nobody in the club has had this yet, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see
All
what
right.
you think. Just got the score sheets
Looking
back on
forward
this
to
one,
that.
but please go ahead and tell us what your first homebrew club was.
Yeah, so my first homebrew club was the Bay Area Mastronauts, joined in 2018. But I joined literally, I had just started brewing. My first ever extract brew was on New Year's Day of 2018, and I joined the Mastronauts in February. So, I kind of did that, you start out and you start researching everything. What do I need to know about home brewing? And, I started seeing some things about clubs, and I was like, oh, hey, that'd be cool to find some other people that do this as well and, talk to them and learn from them. So, I started looking around, what clubs are in our area, and I found the Mashtronauts, came to a meeting, and was kind of welcomed in with open arms, just right off the bat. So it was a great environment and actually a really good first experience for me.
Yeah, I have to say I think my first intro into the Bay Area Mastronauts was nothing but open arms and hey, here's a pint. Let's
Yeah.
let's drink some homebrew. Cheers. So this is my California Common.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Like the malt coming through.
Yeah, the score sheets came back and said it was a little astringent, but so
Maybe a touch there, but it's not
so I got a
not
little
overpowering.
work to do, but it's in a couple other competitions, and we'll see how the rest of them check out before going crazy on a recipe adjustment, right? So why are homebrew clubs important, John?
Well, when you asked me to come on, I did a lot of thinking about this because, I'm obviously very passionate about homebrewing and our club. So I'm going to run through a few of the things that I jotted down, and if you want to kind of expand on any of those, we can.
Sure.
But some of the reasons I think it's really important is, it helps with knowledge and skill development. You're going to get a lot of feedback and critique from your peers on your brewing, and not just the feedback you want to hear. Oh yeah, this is a great beer. What are the things like, this is a little astringent, or maybe this doesn't quite hit the profile for that style, things like that. So you can get some really good feedback. There's some awesome networking opportunities access to resources that you might not have individually as a home brewer. There may be group brews and events that are part of the club, educational programs and workshops, beer style exploration, access to competitions, festivals, troubleshooting and problem solving in your brewing process. And, I think most importantly is just that community and social engagement within the brewing community.
Yeah, the fellowship, for me, is very helpful. Also, introduction to new styles, maybe
Right.
that I haven't tried, and the critiquing of the feedback for sure. I mean, I I'm gonna say it's free, right? Like all this is free, free of ice
Right.
on your beer, right? I mean, yeah, it costs you something. Like you're gonna have your yearly, monthly dues, however the structure's set up, right, at the club level. But you get other people to taste your beer for free to say, hey, I think, I suspect, I would, I feel like, or whatever. And, some of that you do have to take with a grain of salt too,
Right.
like you do your score sheets and you get them back in from that. But it should be at least a base that that you start with there, right? Before you
Right.
just start sending things into
Oh,
competition
absolutely.
willy nilly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be like me. Don't just brew something and just throw it in and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of value in competitions, and that's a whole other subject.
Sure.
And I'm a big competitive guy, so I could go down that rabbit hole and talk for hours. But
We'll get into a little bit of
but
that here in a minute.
you can watch or listen to my podcast for that.
Yeah.
But, people will do that, and they'll advise people to enter competitions and pay those entry fees and send the bottles to get feedback, and that's great. That's one way to do it. But if you're part of a club, like you said, you can get free feedback. From certified judges, non-certified judges, people that have been brewing for 15, 20 years. And it's great to get that feedback and advice because, you go in and if you're a newer brewer, most people are going to be nice about it. They're going to understand you're new to the process and they're not going to trash your beer. They're going to tell you what you could do to improve it. And if you want just, hey, tell me if you like this, people will give you that. But if you say, hey, as a brewer, I really need some critical feedback on this, people will be happy to do so. And they'll tell you, hey, maybe you should do something a little different with your dark grains because you're getting some astringency here. Or, maybe, you need to change your malt beer or what'd you put in this? What hops did you use? Maybe you're using too many different ingredients and it muddles it or things like that. And they can give you that good feedback and it costs you nothing other than just being a member of the club.
One of the best things that I feel like, at least, having when I came in new to the club was we do a program called Nuts and Bolts. So we pair up a more seasoned brewer normally with a more unseasoned brewer, and sometimes because of who's available and who's not or whatever, you get somebody that might be a little closer to your skill set, right?
Right.
So I came in and I was partnered with Jonathan Reesner, excellent brewer. I learned a lot from him. And one of the biggest things that he advocated that I did differently was water.
Right.
Start with RO water and adjust your water with your water salts, your ions, and start chasing those water profiles. And I really feel like that one thing paid my whole yearly dues worth of information, right? Like, because my beer increased like 100% right off the top. Not using tap water, just
and
going RO water and ions.
And things like that where you actually can brew with people. You start to get collaborations going, and like that, the nuts and bolts thing you're talking about, that's awesome because there's two people paired up to brew, so you brew on each other's system, and when people are asking you questions, even if you've been brewing for 10 years and you get some new person that's new to brewing comes in and they're brewing with you and they start asking you a bunch of questions, sometimes it can help you to kind of rethink through your process, like, why am I doing this? And is this step really necessary? Am I wasting my time for something that doesn't benefit? And just sometimes having other people kind of ask questions on your brewing process can help you get outside of your own box and relook at things.
yeah, I've been stuck in these ways because that's the way that you're supposed to brew,
Right.
kind of thing, and that's the
Or how
way that
you
it was.
learned and
Yeah, it was that way from the 70s. It was that way when I got here. And like things have changed. Like we have shorter boil times, we have shorter mash times, we have all kinds of different techniques that have kind of sprung up in the last, I don't
yeah.
know, what, 10, 8 years or so, and really kind of starting to gain traction.
Well, I'll say the negative to that is you get a little brewer's envy at times that you see someone else's system and you start thinking, oh man, it's time for me to upgrade. I really like this. I really like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it can get expensive the more stainless that you add,
Yeah.
but that's for sure. But I think a lot of people though are amazed though at some of the other like more seasoned brewers and how simple
Oh,
their systems
exactly.
are too.
Oh, exactly.
Like
Yes.
I brew in a bag, and a lot of people will taste something and they're like, you brewed this in the bag, like kind of deal or whatever. But I'm also a weird duck that doesn't boil sometimes or chill. But that's a whole different story.
No, and I can attest to that. I had a nuts and bolts partner that had only done extract brewing and was kind of afraid of all grain and came over to brew with me. And at the end of the day, he was like, "Man, this isn't that hard to do all grain
Nope.
versus extract." And he's like, "If this guy can do it, I can do it."
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we build those things up in our heads.
yeah,
And speaking of which, right? So as someone that's not never been a member of a club, right? And so you got that new brewer,
right,
and they've got that what is it? Apprehension, right?
yeah, yeah,
To join. The best advice that I can tell you is just go to a meeting without any kind of commitment of saying I'm going to sign up.
yes.
Go, right?
Oh, absolutely. Just go and check it out. It doesn't hurt you to see what's going on and kind of make your own evaluation versus just hearing rumors or seeing things online. I can say I'm one of those, I'm sort of that mixed introvert extrovert. When I know people and I'm comfortable in the situation, I'm pretty outgoing.
Yes.
But if I'm in an environment I'm not comfortable with, around a bunch of people I don't know, I'm the guy that's going to stand in the corner and sip on my beer and observe and kind of stay out of things. Um, but a lot of times groups, homebrew clubs have sort of those ambassadors that can kind of reach out and pull those people in. So
Sure.
even if you're like that, you're more of that introvert, you're not going to go out and work the room. Um, I'd also encourage people that are watching that are members of homebrew clubs to see that. If you see that guy that's sort of the wallflower or woman or whoever, you see
Right.
anybody out there
You see that
that's a
new
new
person
member,
that showed up.
right? They show up and they're kind of hanging out on their own. Pull them into your group. Ask them some questions about how they're brewing, things like that. Make them feel a part of it. That's how you're going to help build your club and engage your members, is get those people kind of brought in and feeling comfortable and welcome.
Right, yeah, and there's nothing to me like we've had a good shift of new members, right, join our club here recently, with some of our local breweries shutting down that were local hangouts for other homebrewers that didn't have clubs,
Right.
and to see the amount of attention and detail and caring that these guys and girls have brought to our club, like a resurgence of
Oh, yeah.
like it's incredible. Like I feel like our club before them was at 10, right? And so like now
Right.
it's at like 12. Like they just they're pushing us to do even better, and it's fun.
Oh, it is. And clubs go through cycles, and you can kind of recognize that of where things are. Membership kind of comes and goes as people phase out of brewing or get into brewing. And it's not just an age thing.
Lifestyles
Yeah,
and
yeah, everything that goes along with it. And so clubs kind of have that ebb and flow of growth and people just maybe not even brewing, but coming there to becomes more of a drinking club. And then you get new infusion of brewers, and it's just this cycle. So you get a good mix of all that in the club.
we definitely have some older members there that I think maybe they brew occasionally, maybe
Right,
like 4 or 5 times a year, right?
right.
Probably. And then we've got some of the OGs that like helped set the club up,
Right.
And I was talking to one of them recently, and I asked them, I said, is the club better or worse than like when you came around and set this up? And he said, it's not better or worse, Matt. It's different, and it's different in a good way. He's like, he's like, you guys are just killing it now. Like, he's like, I think this thing's bigger than we ever imagined it would be at this point in time. And he said the same thing about like ups and downs, and
Right.
like during points in times, I guess they were so low on members that they just kind of swapped who was in the
Right.
office there for a little bit just to kind of keep the club going. But
Yeah, and I mean, I think I personally look at our club as having three important functions that we've decided we want to make sure we're covering. The social aspect, number one. It's a social group. We want to build that sense of community, all the knowledge sharing and all that stuff we've already talked about. That's a huge part of it. We need to make sure we're capturing that. Um, the other part is education. As a club, we want to do more and more to help educate our brewers, provide different learning opportunities, classes, sensory trainings, encourage BJCP judging certifications, all these different things that we want to help to educate our members. And then the other part is competition. Um, we are a competitive group. We've got a lot of our new brewers over the last several years do have that competitive spirit. So as a club, we want to compete, and so that's been a fun aspect of it. Not every club is going to be built that way. Some may be strictly social, some may be strictly educational, some may be any combination of those. But it just depends on what dynamics that club is looking for.
sure, how they set it up from
Right, yeah, not
original.
necessarily how it was originally set up,
Sure.
but how it's evolved and what you're looking for as a club.
And I guess that kind of has bled into a couple of the other questions that we had here. I've got some kind of more online friends and followers and stuff that say, I'm lucky to have a local homebrew club and community to be able to resource all those aspects from between educational, the social aspect, and even just the competition, you know, guidance and
Right.
all that comes along with being a competitor in the club. So but these people, they don't have clubs local to them. Like the nearest one is like 4 hours away or whatever the case may be.
Right.
So if you found yourself, let's say John, 10 years from now, you move to somewhere a lot more rural than you currently
Right.
are, and you find yourself without a club and you wanted to start one up, what steps would you take, or what advice would you give someone to start a homebrew club?
Well, so if I was in a different area and going to start a homebrew club from scratch, number one, you got to find members. So you need to start, and social media is an awesome place for that. You'll find the brewing community across the country is just shrinking and shrinking with the use of social media. Now I've got brewing friends I've never met in person, in California and Illinois,
Yep.
Ohio, all over the country. And it's awesome. They're people that I can send a message to and ask a question if I needed to. If there's something I know, hey, they're really technical in these areas. Let me get their advice on this, or maybe it's a recipe building thing. There's so many resources where you can reach out and interact with people now that's a good place to start. But you can try and find people that are more close to your area that would be interested in joining and starting this club with you. I would also try and find some other, either regional or not even necessarily regional, um, clubs that you want to emulate. You can see through their online presence that you like what they're doing, how they're approaching things, and reach out to them and, and talk to them about what's making their club successful. What are they doing? What are some of the ideas? And just the sharing of information and ideas will help you to kind of decide how you want to structure your club, what you can do, because there's so many different things you can be as simple as just a informal beer meetup group at a local brewery, and we meet the second Tuesday of the month and just talk about beer and bring some beer to share. It can be something as simple as that, or you could be a 501c7 corporation that hosts big festivals and all kinds of things like that. So just whatever your vision is, you can kind of get feedback and advice from other people on how they got to that point, and then that kind of gets you going there. And then of course there's resources. American Homebrewers Association has some information on starting a homebrew club. They provide resources like club insurance and things like that. So there are also resources out there you can look into that might help you in your journey.
So I know BAM has a board of directors.
Yes.
And so that's going to be like our president, our vice president,
Right.
treasurer, educational officer, plus any others
Right.
that I might be missing here. But is every homebrew club more or less structured that way? That would you advise, like, hey, I'm going to start a club, so I need to start working on, I guess, the scope of who's responsible for what, or it might be a little lean there for a little bit.
It kind of depends on that structure. If you're looking for loosey goosey, just a meetup type group,
More
there's,
social
right?
club.
There's no need probably, other than somebody sort of the head organizer type person. But
Right. We meet this day.
but if you're gonna collect dues, then you're gonna have to be a legal entity of some sort, and that's gonna mean potential state or federal tax type filings, and
Account.
you're going to have to be some sort of entity, and any type of business entity, you're going to have a board of directors.
Sure.
So at that point, you just kind of decide how it's best to structure with that. Maybe it's just, if it's a smaller club, you might just want a 3-person board to kind of meet minimum requirements, and then that gives you sort of that.
Yeah, if you got 10
leadership,
people in your club, then
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but you got to think through things like how you want to set it up for voting for those officers, and there's a lot of those key things that I think would be good to get advice from other clubs of what they've been through, and make sure that you can account for those as you're setting it up.
I got you. So one of the next questions was, and I mean, you kind of answered it a little bit, but I don't know if maybe you could break it out, or
Yeah.
maybe you had some more information there. But what type of clubs are there? We listed social, the competitive, and
Yeah.
all that. Are there any other types of clubs out there? And can a homebrew club deliver it all? Is there a whole package that can be delivered between like the social, the educational, and the competitive? Now, I do feel that we do an excellent job in that, but
Right. Yeah, you can deliver the whole package. One person can't do it alone. I can say that. It takes a team, especially depending on how big you are. If you're a 5-member club, this stuff's pretty easy. If you get into, you've got 150 members in your club, and you're trying to serve everybody and provide a little something that everybody wants, yeah, it can get a little difficult. But it also gives you a bigger pool for help, that you can divide up duties. Have an education officer that is strictly devoted to setting up learning opportunities and doing work tastings where you're doing malt sensory profiles, and what's the difference between a standard Pilsner and floor malted Bohemian Pilsner, and different opportunities for educational type classes. But like I said before, some clubs try to deliver all, and that's simply what we do. I know there are some clubs out there that are very strong in one area or another, and that may be the competitive side. They may be sort of organized just to compete. You may have some that are more heavy on the education side, that their primary focus is education.
Sure.
So it just kind of depends on what their MO is and how they want to pursue it and get their volunteers focused towards.
And I know, like, so the educational part of it, and kind of goes into the next question, is how do you feel about online clubs versus the in-person clubs? I feel like the online clubs, from outside looking in and being a member of some of these, is more educational focused, right?
Right.
Not so much competitive or social. I mean, there is some kind of social exchange there, right?
Right.
To be able to call upon that person in Ohio or whatever, say, hey, I got a problem.
Right. Yeah, and I know we kind of went through that during COVID. Everything went virtual, and our club meetings kind of just became online Zoom meetings of people drinking, and sometimes it went a little late and ended up becoming karaoke online, and all kind of different things going on. But there's Online is great, and like I said before, I think just the extending of our network is awesome because you can have people all over the country that are they're sort of in this group and communicating directly. But I do think there is some true value in that face-to-face, in-person socialization. Being able to share a beer and sit and talk with somebody, and even watch my viewing or my brewing process not through a camera, but like you're here, you can help. Hey, let me grab that.
Yeah.
Let me see this firsthand. I think there's a lot of value in that. So I don't see the primary homebrew club model going away at all.
Sure.
I kind of look at the onlines as sort of in addition to that. It's a layer on top of that with
Supplement.
To supplement. Yeah,
Yes.
That's the right word. To kind of just expand that network and give you more resources.
Yeah, and that's kind of my experience too. I know, like when I've gone and brewed with other people on their systems and stuff, I'm pretty hands-on, right?
Right.
And so it's not like, hey, I think that you're doing it wrong on your system. It's just, how can I help? And I'm like
Right.
kind of in your way a little bit, like I've been told, like, hey, you need to go sit down and drink a beer kind of deal, but it's when I have people over, like I'm not like, hey, you need to do this. Just like, hey, do you want to stir this decoction for 30 minutes?
Yeah.
Kind of deal. But
Yeah, and I'm the opposite. I'm sort of the guy that's observing the process and like, I don't want to, I know this is your system and you know it, and I don't want to screw something up by just jumping in.
Sure.
So I'm like, point me to what I need and I'm willing to help, but I don't want to just start grabbing things and do.
Right. Yeah. No, I hate cleaning, but I'll start cleaning as
Oh,
we
yeah.
go. And
Yep.
so somebody will turn around and they're like, oh, wow, we're already cleaning, huh? Yep, we sure are. Like, I want to be done with this as quick as possible.
Absolutely.
So now, I guess the president of the club, as a board member, as somebody that's really taken pride in your Bay Area Mastronauts, how do you help keep the club cohesiveness together in a mostly like singletary hobby, right?
Right.
So we have these brew-ins and these assist brews and stuff like that, but how do you keep that cohesiveness of the club together?
That's a good question, and it can be difficult sometimes, especially when you have a large membership and you're trying to steer everybody in the same direction on topic. There's always a lot of ideas, and we should do this, we should do that, but ultimately there's time involved. You got to block out time. You can't be asking too much of people too many times in the same month. But you just have to kind of make sure that you stay on point. That if this is sort of what our mission and goals are, you need to make sure that the activities and things you're planning, keep it steered in that direction. Stay in that lane. Make sure to try to be inclusive. Get everybody involved. Don't do too many things that are really geared towards a select group of people. That's going to cause some divisiveness and create those cliques. You don't want to do that. For instance, like one of the things our club has, a third of our focus is the competitive side, but we try to really promote that even if you're not competing as a brewer, you're a part of that competitive team.
Sure.
Whether it's just giving encouragement, whether it's giving advice, imparting your knowledge. We have some incredibly experienced brewers in our club that aren't really truly active members anymore. They show up socially every now and then, but we have people that have written books on brewing. We have one of the early people is actually published in Zymergy magazine years and years ago in the 90s that built an automated brewing system. We've got, like I said, authors, people that professional brewers out there that have started within the club and gone on to very successful brewing careers. So a lot of wealth of knowledge that are all part of this process that, even on that competitive side, you might not be the person that won the medal or competed, but everybody contributed in some way to the club's success.
So for those that don't know, the club is Bay Area Mastronauts. We're in South Houston, and we literally have NASA right over here. So we have some very smart individuals
Yes.
that have come to the club, and it's not just actual rocket scientists. I mean, we have doctors, lawyers,
Right.
uh, auto mechanics, and
Yep.
and people in architecture and web developers and stuff like that. But we have a very smart group of people
Right.
to be able to pull all this together.
And then there's you and me.
And then there's I don't even boil sometimes, for God's sakes. What's wrong with me? You know. But so with all that being said, let's take a quick break. Let's grab another beer, get
Absolutely.
these glasses refreshed. John's got a special treat for me here that he brought. So let's get that settled out, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. So here we have John and his brew partner from Nuts and Bolts entry into the category was historical
Yes.
this year, and y'all did a London
London brown ale, yes.
Okay.
So it's a low ABV brown malty beer.
It smells wonderful.
I think it came out pretty nice. We'll find out next week.
I'm just gonna say, if I lose to this, I'm punching you in the face.
Bring it on.
We did Kentucky Common. I
Yeah.
mean, I know, go figure, right?
You've done a few of those, right?
Yeah. I've actually been trying to not nail a recipe on it, because I feel like I've done well on it.
Right.
Like I can't break 35 competitively with it. Like whatever I do, 35 is a fairly respectable
Yes,
number, right?
It's a solid score.
Right. But still, like, it's just
you want to take it over that 40 notch, right?
Yeah. I need to get it. MHP says that I need a
43.
well, 38
Oh,
or what I'm
okay,
hunting
okay,
right now,
okay.
but 43 is
We
ideal.
might as well just get the 43 and then cover it both.
Get it done and over with, right? But so I've been brewing like a Kentucky Common for like the last, I don't know, 6-7 years, at least once a year.
Right.
And so like I feel like I get closer and closer and closer. I took a lot of notes from last year's score sheets and tried to adapt them into a new recipe. I feel like I got really close, so we'll see. But
Well, I could tell you some advice I got from an experienced brewer in the club was it's not one thing that you can change that's going to make your beer better. It's 100 little things. So as you make those little changes, you might not be seeing the difference, but they're adding up, and there's going to be a point where it.
So what I did for the Kentucky Common, I introduced temperature control,
Yes.
fermentation, and then I changed my hop schedule on it. They said that basically I was picking up on some astringency and stuff like that. So I was hoping that chilling my wort, temperature control fermentation was going to kind of help push those bad flavors off, right? And that the changing of my hop schedule would kind of help wake it back up.
Right.
So we're catching some score sheets. We'll reevaluate it, and I may not even change it again. I may just do it again this way next year.
And that's
see.
honestly how you become a better brewer is can you rebrew the same beer and get the same result, as not score sheet wise, but as it tastes and how it comes
Can
out.
I continue to get stuck at 35 for the next 5 years?
Can you be consistent in how you brew it? And that shows where you're at.
Sure. I think Blake. I think he said he brewed. Sorry to get off a topic here,
Yeah.
but real quick, Blake said that he brewed that stout of his before it finally started hitting. I think he said he brewed it like 12 times.
Wow.
Back to back to back to back to back, to make sure that it hit all the numbers before he started collecting medals. So yeah. Got some
Dial it in.
Got some dedication right there. I don't think I could brew anything back to back more than probably about 2 times.
Yeah, I think 4 is the most and not back to back, but I think 4 is the most I've ever brewed the same beer.
Oh,
4
really?
times.
Okay. Well, so the next question that we have here is, what is the collaboration and assistance like between local clubs, national clubs, and crossways and all that?
Yeah. Yeah, there's not too many actual national clubs that I'm aware of. There's some pseudo clubs. American Homebrewers Association is sort of an entity that is designed to support homebrew clubs and homebrewers in general. And they do a lot of things. I think I mentioned earlier, like insurance is a big thing. Clubs being able to get insurance specifically to cover what we do, and especially because alcohol is involved. So it's good to have a resource that can kind of help you on that path with the insurance side of things.
Provided for you, have your
Right,
back.
right, yeah. Now there's a cost to it, but they have a provider that knows what our industry is, knows what the clubs are trying to do, and knows what our liabilities are. And anytime you have club events where people are drinking and then possibly traveling afterwards, there are some liability issues. So there's some concerns there that, it's insurance is good, very important for homebrew clubs. I will stress that. You guys want it. If you don't have it, you need to reach out to AHA. It's not that expensive.
Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Exactly. And while I'm at it with that, I might as well throw in just a quick plug. Like, there are other things you should look at if you do big events. Provide an Uber or Lyft code. Pay a few bucks to offer discounts, or pay a little portion towards things like that. That's going to help your liability too, as well, that you're promoting and giving people options for safe rides. Just we are very alcohol based, and we're all out here doing these bottle shares and drinking, and we want to keep everybody safe and out of harm's way. So
at your events, make sure that your servers are
not over serving,
but make sure they actually are certified, certificated, or whatever within that state or region. Or
those things will help keep you out of trouble as well. But that's probably a little off topic, but
but still,
something that's important to me. Last thing you want is to lose a member of your club because you got a little overexcited at a bottle share, right?
Sure.
But other things as well. There's Master Homebrewer Program, which has been an awesome thing for us. Our club's gotten really on board with the beer Boy Scouts, as we like to joke about, with the badges you can get for brewing and whatnot. But there's some cool things with that as well. In tracking everything. I'm not going to get too into detail of what Master Homebrewer Program offers, but there are cool things like at a club level, a club can join the Master Homebrewer Program and pay for a membership so that any of our members of our club are members of that. And it does provide some cool advantages. Like if you as an individual wanted to join the Master Homebrewer Program, I think it's like $25 a year. If you wanted to join,
there's a free option
too. There's a free option. But if you want full benefits, full benefits, it's like $25 a year, which includes getting the actual badges
and discount codes.
Right.
And
so our club joined as a club level. And so if you're a dues paid member of our homebrew club, you're also a full member of the Master Homebrewer Program. That's a $25 value that they're getting just for being a member of our homebrew club, and our dues are $20.
Yeah.
So essentially anybody that joins our club is paying $20 and getting $25 worth of value free immediately. So
it's $20. You've been overcharging me. No, I got the family.
So, we charge double because we got to deal with them on a daily basis. So.
At least.
So, so there are cool things that discounts and things like that. Maybe your homebrew shop gives discounts for members of your homebrew club, so you can get value out of being a member of the club that way. But I think it's also cool the interaction between clubs, whether it's competition or not. Obviously, competitions are a great way to interact because you're competing against other clubs, maybe on a circuit for who's the club of the year, or maybe it's just regional or local. But there's also different events, and I know American Homebrewers Association used to put on these AHA rally days, which supported homebrewing and celebrated it, and different clubs would all get together. I think those are great things. Like
the big brew-ins and stuff like that.
It's cool to do throughout the year, do stuff within your own club, but it's nice also to get that interaction between clubs. And sometimes it's a friendly rivalry, but there's some awesome people that are in clubs that you're not members of, right? And so having those opportunities to get together in person, virtually, whatever you got to do. I know we interact a lot here in Texas. We've got a lot of different competitions: Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Houston.
We're on the Lone Star Circuit.
Yeah, Lone Star Circuit.
There's what, like 7, 8 other
Yeah,
clubs that compete on it.
yeah. Oh, there's more than that, but
Sure,
there's usually 7 or 8 that are kind of in that higher competitive range with it,
sure.
that are really going after things. Um, but even like the award ceremonies are awesome. Like
Yes.
I encourage people to go, go and meet those other brewers. Those are good scenarios where you've got a cross section of members from different clubs and people that are going to those things are usually very involved members. They're not going because they're a casual brewer.
Right.
They're experienced brewers or very involved with their club or the competition side. So they have a lot of interesting stories to tell and things that you can learn from them. But it's been a fun thing. In fact, when I started, we had a competitive wing, and I was kind of brought up with sort of this other club, they're the enemy, and we got to beat them, and so I kind of was like, I don't like those people.
Yeah.
But the CIA, nah, I don't like those guys, and I've met a bunch of them, and now I'm really good friends with them. In fact,
They're a bunch of really good guys.
the co-host of my podcast is Andy Scherzinger, who is a CIA
Yes.
guy, and he's an awesome dude. Like
Also MHP
so,
guy.
like don't let any other people's opinions or thoughts influence yours. Get out there and meet those other clubs. Or like I said, there's awesome people out there.
It's fun also sometimes to put that face with
Oh
that name.
yes.
You start seeing those names pop up on those award ceremonies.
Oh yeah.
And
Those ones you hear all the time.
go shake their hand and say, hey, look, I entered that same category, you did too, and I scored,
Oh yeah.
6 points below you. Like what am I doing here?
Like I could tell you, I've been to Blue Bonnet a couple times now, and I got to meet Mark Rendon. He's up in Dallas. He's a seasoned brewer. He's an incredible brewer, wins all kind of awards. Guy's the most genuine guy, super awesome guy to talk to. Like I am so glad that I've got up there and got to meet him. So, just being able to meet these people across different clubs, it's such a great experience. So I encourage any opportunities to do cross club, either mini competitions, collaborations, anything like that. It makes it more fun. Let's be friendly, competitive among among our neighbor clubs, right?
Sure, and those like festivals
Oh yeah,
and stuff, the competition festivals, they're a blast.
yeah.
There's normally really good food, really good beer being served.
Don't be afraid to cross state lines.
Yeah.
We had a contingent that's gone out to Louisiana for Boot Brew Fest to serve, and
Yeah,
they've raved about their experience out there. Like so, so look for those opportunities, man. Make it fun.
yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
So let's see here. Now, we're kind of circling back more into your position at the club level.
hmm
What is the most important job that you feel like you do for the club or in the club?
You got to have somebody that kind of keeps things moving.
Or the cats?
Right, right. Because the bigger you are, the more opinions there are, the more ideas of how things will go, and there's a lot of people that want to help but don't know how to help or don't know what they need to do. So, trying to keep things organized and moving. I think it's good to have a plan. Like what you're looking to do for the year, so you can make those things happen. Um, Clubs that have been around a while sort of already have that sort of built in. They have a routine that,
Right.
we know that our huge competition is in May and we need to start it at this point. So this period of time, we're keen on bottle sort and judging and all of that.
But also
And
that's
event.
75% of the club's income for the year or
Right,
whatever
right.
too.
So it's really
So
important.
really
It's really
important, yeah.
important. But then the rest of the year, you've got to plan out your different things. Are you going to do brew-ins? Are you going to do a fundraiser for something for the club or something else? I know we had a tornado hit, maybe was February, March
Yeah.
or something. Didn't hurt or damage, did some damage, just a small little thing here. We don't get the big, Kansas tornadoes out
Yeah.
here. But like there was an animal shelter that got hit really bad, and so we did a dog treat fundraiser. All the homebrewers used spent grains, made dog treats. We sold them to raise money for the shelter. So you've got impromptu events that you need to, get people aligned with that come up, and it kind of throws the schedule off. But a lot of the other stuff may be routine, and that you've got this here. You do your brew in October. You do the Christmas party here. We have our nuts and bolts pairings at the beginning of the year and turn-ins throughout. So you can kind of have that all scheduled out. It's important to get a good team, and I would stress that it's not just the elected officers that are a part of it.
Sure.
Make sure that you're getting committees and getting everybody involved, because there's a lot of people that, they may not be able to have the time commitment to be an officer, but they want to help, and they can help with this one event. Get them involved, because if you don't get them involved, they're not going to be likely to volunteer for stuff in the future because they're just not being utilized, right? So get them involved, find them something to do, even if it's a small project, get them to help, let them be a part of it and feel a part of it. But I think it's
an hour of help from each individual member across the whole year really
it adds up. Yeah,
helps out, takes a lot off, instead of just being like, well, I guess I'm just doing everything this year.
But it's a club. It's not a one person running the show sort of thing. It's not. I don't want to say dictatorship, but it's not that. It's a collective group, and I think it's awesome to get everybody involved and feel a part of it. And I think that really truly helps build that sort of team spirit. And that's what I kind of look at it as. Our club is like a team. We're all teammates here. We got the same goals, whether it's individually we want to brew better beer and utilize each other to learn and help, or compete as a club. I know we've, like I said before, we've gotten pretty competitive, so we focus in that area a lot as well. But it's hard sometimes to make sure you don't overdo certain areas, because you want to keep everybody engaged and everybody happy. And it's important to do that. Somebody that's just brewing for fun, if you go overly competitive and everything's about competition, they're going to feel left out. They're going to want it. They'll start backing off. You'll see they'll stop coming to meetings and stop engaging. And that's not what the club's about. So I think it's important to make sure that you're driving all of the things that you need to be doing to diversify how the club's running. Keep everybody involved, and I think that's the most important thing. Because if something happened and we were planning this event, we didn't have the event. Well, if we didn't have the event, okay, whatever. But I'd rather that happen than have a handful of people feel alienated and stop participating because they're not getting out of the club what they want, right?
Sure. As a board member, the president, and all that, are there any ideas or items that you found hard to bring to the club or get the rest of the board on, or rest of the membership on, that you thought was a really good idea? How do you handle that?
Fortunately, I haven't really come across too much of that, of things that I've wanted to do that we haven't been able to do. There are times that you sort of brainstorm and you throw out, what can we do here, what can we do there, what are some fun things, events and such. It's important to keep in mind that, especially if you are an officer, everybody's got different opinions, and you can't take it personal if you've got an idea and other people don't like it, right? And maybe you want to do a pub crawl, and someone points out liability issues and some other things that they don't think it's the best idea to do a pub crawl, and so it's not selected. And maybe it's just a member that brings it up, not even an officer, but don't feel offended if your idea isn't taken, or maybe the club has too many other things going on, so it's like, good idea, we just don't have the capacity to make this work. I haven't seen, I can't really think of any examples that were like, man, this is a terrible idea. Like, no way I'm going to do this. But some of it may be like even running a mini competition. I know one thing that we've tossed around and we haven't made it happen yet. We started a smaller competition. Our big one is Lunar Rendezvous. It's one of the top 5 largest competitions in the country the last couple of years, size-wise. We had 704 entries this year, Judge, so it was pretty massive.
There's a lot of bottles to sort. I was there for sorting day. That was it was amazing that we got it done as quick as we did, as efficiently as we did, and all that.
So we do that every year. It's been 29 years, so this is a staple within the club. It happens every year. But we started doing a little mini competition in the fall. It really started out with, we had some change in membership in as officers and some new people running the competition side of things. So it was a good opportunity. Hey, let's learn the software. Let's learn that competition software, figure out or work out the kinks on a small competition with only like 30 entries.
Yeah.
So we did a little small free competition, free to enter, just for us to learn off of and whatnot.
Yeah.
It was a fun little deal.
Alternate universe. That was an awesome deal.
Yeah.
I think I got fifth, sixth in it.
Yeah.
So I was pretty happy with
that.
So
it was a fun deal, but like we've talked about what we want to do with that. Do we want to continue that? Do we want to do it as
my vote is yes. That was a lot of fun.
Well, one of the things we've thrown out is making it a specialty type of competition. And one option was to do a female identifying competition, because there are a few of those around the country, and some might do it. Yeah, right. And some might do it well. Some may not do it as well. But we were kind of seeing and talking with some members, and that idea had gotten thrown out of creating a competition like that. And so it's something we haven't decided on officially yet, if we're going to end up doing something with it. But it's ideas like that are important to discuss. They're important to bring up. And
if they've got enough membership that are behind it, then it's obviously an important thing to bring up and evaluate.
Right, absolutely. And the hard thing is, if we go like that particular example, we go down that road, that means we're not doing a separate competition which involves everybody in the club. It's limiting access and things like that. So that's one of those we have to weigh the pros and cons and what we decide to do ultimately with that. But there's also some other awesome ideas that have come out for different competition ideas that might be more club related, or you can even do self-serving, like we've done. Like we did a hop comparison tasting that everybody brewed a beer, and everybody brewed the same recipe and used a single hop, and everybody used a different hop.
Yeah.
And we had like 25, 28 people participated, so we had 25 to 28 different beers with different hops, and they're all pale ales.
Yes.
And so then when it comes time to compete, like everybody in our club is sending in these pale ales, and it's
so everybody's competing against each other.
What the hell? Yeah, where everybody's competing against each other. Yeah. So you got that you could do. Hey, well, let's do a certain style and encourage our people to brew this. So they've got, by doing it for this mini comp that's sort of club related, that encourages them to have this beer to compete with in other competitions.
Sure.
So there's a lot of different things that options that you have, and you have to kind of weigh those pros and cons of which way do we go with it, and even like in this case, that outside extra comp, it just means it's extra work. Someone else has to run it.
Yeah.
Awards.
How serious do you do the awards?
Exactly. And how much do you open it up? Because for that, we're wanting to keep it small. It's a training, and also it's an opportunity to train judges. We need judges for our competition. And so when you get some of the brewers that haven't been as experienced in judging, you want to give them a chance to get in and actually judge beers, even if they're not certified, and get that experience. So that was another factor with it, was get some people some judging experience so they feel comfortable with it in a sort of non-threatening environment, because it's sort of doesn't really matter, fun little competition.
Not a whole lot on the line.
Right, not a lot of pressure there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things you can look at, and it's important just to evaluate those things and make the best decision for the club. And it's not, you're not worried about people's feelings. You gotta just decide what's best for the club and for the membership as a whole.
And also realize that it's not just your club either.
Right.
Too. I know,
Exactly.
and I know that there's sometimes like we shouldn't as a club compete in that competition or whatever. Like, what at the end of the matter? What does it matter? It's not. That's not your competition. That's not your club. Yeah. This isn't your club. Just because because you have a personal vendetta against it, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Like I can say, as an officer, you really should be making decisions that are in the best interest of the membership.
Sure.
Not yourself. And that, honestly, if politicians operated that way, this country would be a whole lot better. Right. Just gonna leave that there, but. as an officer, you got to look at what's best for the club. And like if it were strictly up to me, because I'm a super, super competitive guy, like I'd see our club pay for first entries of every competition on Lone Star Circuit for members just to make sure that people are entering and getting their beers in.
Sure.
But is that the best interest of the club to have the membership dues and the revenue generated from Rendezvous to pay for to spend that much money towards competition? Probably not. So it's one of those.
And do you stop at 30 members, or
right, exactly,
that
right.
would be the question?
Yeah.
Like,
so there's a lot of things you have to put your own ego and your own opinions aside and look at what's best for the club, what the membership wants.
So pretty much this is the last question I got for you, but and I'm sure that this is going to be one of those multi-answered ones. But so what is the success of growing a club, right? And how do you measure those metrics of success? What are those metrics of success for a club? I mean, outside of obviously like bringing in new members, right? That's going to be a number one factor, but can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think it really goes back to what the mission of the club is. What's their purpose? That's what's going to drive how you measure the success of the club. And growing membership can be important because, like we talked about it, I think early on in the episode here.
Sure.
There's a lot of ebb and flow with clubs, and you get people that cycle out. They're heavy into brewing, and they start to phase out, and maybe they're only brewing once or twice a year and not as involved. And that comes from all walks of life. You get some people that start to get older, and it's harder to put in the effort to brew as often. You get some people that started brewing before they have kids, and then they've got some young kids, and that makes it difficult. Yeah. And so they kind of lean away from brewing for a while until they can have the time to get back into it. I know I was fortunate enough to kind of get into it as my kids were in their teenage years and older, so now they're kind of getting into one in college, one about to be in college, and so it's like my time is freeing up even more now, and it's nice to be able to get more brewing in. But it's cyclical with that, and just everything in people's life. People move, people downsize. I'm going from a house to an apartment, and I don't have room for all my brewing now.
Sure.
So the club's going to change, and so if you're stale with not bringing in new members, the club's just going to slowly dwindle and fade, and then whatever your goals are, you're not going to be able to accomplish those things because you don't have the membership there. So it is important to grow, continue to be bringing in new members. It doesn't mean you have to be ambitious and, well, we've got 10 members now, but we'd like to see us at a 200-member club.
Right.
But just having that influx of some new members, it also brings in new ideas and perspectives, which is really nice as well.
Yeah.
I think local homebrew shops are a vital part of that, and I can attest to that for our club.
Yes,
we went through that sort of down cycle several years ago, and ironically, it was right about the time I joined the club.
Yeah.
But we had, it was sort of in that shift where we had some people phasing out and less of those recurring members, and it was. At the time, it was Hop and Grape Homebrew Supply that was a big proponent of our club, and they would have people come in, and they'd be new to brewing and ask them a bunch of questions, and they would ask them one simple thing, are you a member of a homebrew club?
Yep.
And that sparked a conversation about this exact topic. Why is it beneficial to be a part of a homebrew club?
Mindy and Keith were on my ass for about a year to 2 years about becoming a member of band. And I put it off because I said I'm not good enough to be part of a homebrew club. I was apprehensive about it, just totally like, nope, I'm not good enough. They're not going to like what I do, and this and that. And then I showed up, and I was like, oh, I brewed Kentucky Common, and then suddenly I found out I had all this like common stuff involved, right? With everybody minus the no chill and and no boil stuff, but yeah, no, I totally agree. That's like it makes sure that you take care of those local homebrew stores because you have to.
Yeah, and that's a whole other soapbox I can get on.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting there. But.
No, it's supporting local because these homebrew shops, I think they're vital to the club's success and growth.
Yes.
They're the ones that are providing all the supplies that are helping keep them brewing. Um, it's too easy for people to just order online nowadays, and okay, I saved $5 on my order, but yet that's adding up and putting that local shop out of business for when somebody needs to go in and get something. Hey, it's brew day, I don't have this. Guess what? Your shop's not there anymore because you saved $5 last month.
As a matter
So,
of fact, behind us, you'll see a bunch of homebrew equipment. So we're filming on location at Sitta Brew Hub. That they were gracious enough to come open up the doors for us on their day that they're closed down. They said, "Hey, why don't you guys go ahead and just film this episode up here?" And so local homebrew shops, like you don't know what you get out of them unless you ask them, right? Because they were totally cool with this. And I know that my $100 bill means a whole lot more to them than it does Amazon or
right.
Northern Brewer or anybody else, right?
But so I think they're vital to that growth piece. They're the first line of getting people in that are new to brewing. They're coming somewhere for advice and to get their grains, and they're more likely to find them online, searching for where to buy things. They're going to see them before they see a club.
Sure.
And they may not even be aware that clubs exist, but they know they need an extract kit for an IPA, and here's a homebrew shop that's not too far away. Let me go in.
Yep.
So I think that is an important piece to it, is having that good relationship with the homebrew shop. And I haven't really seen many cases where there's not a good relationship between the club and the local shop, but
Yeah.
I think it's vital. It's really vital to the success of a club. Unfortunately, we went through a shop that closed down. Like I said, Hop and Grape, they were our home base. When they closed, it really hurt our club.
For about 6 months.
Right. And
And
so,
we're lucky that we got one turned around,
right,
opened back up this quickly.
right. And it was a member of our club that jumped in and started this new shop. So it was awesome timing, and awesome that someone recognized the need within our community.
Yep.
And was passionate enough to do that. But there's other things clubs can do to help. Do brew-ins and post things, and there's a lot of beer drinking groups out there as well. Post things and do learn to brew classes. Partner
Yeah.
with the local brewery and do a learn to brew class. Bring people in organically, because I know when I started, I didn't really have it on my radar to brew beer. I was given a homebrew kit for Christmas, and my wife still claims that's the most expensive Christmas gift she's ever got me. That one little bucket and
Yeah.
kettle starter
I
kit
can definitely see that.
has really changed my life. So, so some people, it might not be on their radar, but they go to that brewery and they see, hey, there's a learn to brew class. There's no obligation. People can join the club even if they've never brewed before. Like they're interested in learning about it. Join the club, talk to people, come brew with somebody. You'd be surprised how many people are open to sharing a brew day. Hey, I'm brewing today. Anybody that wants to come help or hang out or
Share the recipe.
whatever.
Share whatever.
Exactly. Yes.
The
Sharing
the
recipes.
homebrew like collectiveness as a whole has been pretty much the most open and welcoming community I've ever been a part of, and most inclusive hobby I've ever been a part of. And so not only do I strive to continue that, right, but I also want to help leave it in a better place than I found it. So I want it to be even more welcoming, more open and stuff. And so that's one of the reasons why I try to do what I do, to kind of help spread all that.
And that's why I think it's good for clubs to have something in place to help mentor newer brewers.
Right.
Help them along their journey. Because we've all been there. I started with extract. You started with extract.
Yep.
Most people do. And a newer brewer comes in and they see and they taste some pretty fantastic brews that homebrewers are making, and they think, oh my God, I can't do this. And I'm doing this. I don't know what I'm doing. You can help mentor those people, bring them along. And, it will be surprising what a short turnaround time before they're mentoring other people and they're confident about their brewing.
Yeah. Just boil your wort.
You don't, well, if you're doing a raw ale, you don't want to
Right.
boil it. So
I
just depends
figured
on
I'd
what you're
just get
doing.
all those in before you got them
Well,
in.
I signed that agreement that I was not going to make fun of you in this
Oh, I
recording,
can
so.
handle it. So I guess in closing thoughts, do you have anything that you feel like we didn't touch? Something that you wanted to kind of dig in
No,
a little
well,
bit more on?
well, I mean, I think it's just it's important for people to consider the homebrew club option if they haven't, and it's not. Some people just don't care. They brew, they do their own thing. That's fine. You know,
Yeah,
nobody's putting pressure on anybody to do anything.
sure.
But the social aspect of it has really changed my life in particular. Like I said, I'm sort of that social introvert at times. I'm not. I don't have a large friend group, and since joining the brewing community, it's like this is my family away from my family, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like I really enjoy spending time with these people in and outside of actually brewing.
Most of them,
But
anyways.
most of them, they're then every club has their Joel,
Oh man.
but I think it really enhances the brewing experience for people to kind of be a part of a club, to foster that sense of belonging, um, facilitating that knowledge exchange, the access to resources that you get through a club. It's it just really, in my opinion, helps you grow as a brewer.
Yes. No, I totally agree. I wouldn't disagree with any of that. I think that bottom line, homebrew clubs are way more important than they get credit for, right? And I think if you have the ability to get into a homebrew club, you have nothing to lose, right?
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
it's
If you don't like it, it's not for you.
quit
You
going.
quit them. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's fine.
But there's going to be a club out there for you and your needs. It's just, is it close? Is it online? Is it in person? Or
Right.
whatever the case may be.
Well,
But
and I think you made an excellent point too. Is not every club is right for every person.
yeah,
So if you go to a meeting and you just don't like the vibe of that club, or maybe they weren't very welcoming and accommodating, and you didn't feel like it was the right fit, if you're fortunate enough to be in a larger area like here in Houston,
yeah,
there's a number of clubs, and
absolutely.
in fact, we've got one really key member of our club now that started out, and he went to a different club meeting and just didn't really feel comfortable with it, and ended up joining our club. And he lives hour and a half to 2 hours away,
Yeah.
and he drives in for not every event, but when we have some special events going on, he comes in, drives all the way in to
Yeah,
be a
he's a
part
pretty
of it. Yeah.
key member too for what he does for us.
Yes, absolutely.
So I guess with all that said, first off, thanks again, Sitta, for opening up your shop again to us. I apologize for not addressing that earlier, but check out Sitta Brew Hub if you're in the South Houston area or in the Houston area. Kevin and Dean will definitely take care of you and any of your needs as far as grains, hops, yeast, all that, bottles, fermenters, asking a question. Uh, Swing by, check out the Bay Area Mashronauts. We're the second Tuesday of every month. We meet at Saloon Door. Stop in, come tell John hello, come tell me hello. Please don't throw things at either one of us. We wouldn't enjoy that. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you, John, for coming on.
Well, I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't get one last shameless plug in for the Best of Show podcast.
And that's what I was going to say.
You can find the podcast on all the major podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you do. It's a good show. Andy Scherzinger and I talk about the world of competitive homebrewing. Cover a lot of different topics, so appreciate it. And also 5-star reviews are very welcome.
You guys are on Instagram. You
Yes.
also have the YouTube channel too for Best of Show, correct?
We kind of stopped with that. We tried it. We may re-up it at some point, but
Okay.
you got me on film. I tell people I gotta face made for radio
Right.
and a voice made for silent movies. So.
Well, I will gather up any links that you help provide, and they'll be in the description. Be sure to follow the Best of Show. It's a pretty awesome podcast. Like I said, if you're into competitive home brewing, be sure to check out the Master Homebrewer program. We'd welcome you as a member. We have multiple memberships available too on that platform. So once again, thank you guys so much. I'm Matt from ferMentors, also Jaggers Brewing Co. Really appreciate y'all stopping by, checking us out, and listening to our shenanigans. Cheers.
Cheers.